This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express Monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hi, friends. Welcome to this week's pod. This show for the week of October 14th, 2024. And Phil, I was going to say this is another slow week, and as I was writing this, it was, and then we got a bunch of news and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, Phil, I think we should just get into it. What's going on at Disney World this week? Well, actually, first, before we even break into the news, you went somewhere really, really fun within the last week.
Yes.
So, why don't we start with that?
Start with the fun?
Stuff.
All right.
Start with the fun, yes.
Yeah. So what we're going to start with is my review that 2 days ago, so on Saturday, the October 12th, my oldest daughter and I went to a D23 event that was being held in Sleepy Hollow, New York, which is about a half hour away from where I live. So I was kind of like, oh, they're actually doing something near where I live, not just in Florida or California or anything like that. So I was excited to actually get to participate in an event. And my daughter was interested in going, so it seemed like it'd be a good outing and a family, father-daughter bonding moment and all that sort of stuff. So what the event was to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad,
Awesome.
which was really 75 years ago. And obviously it's all tied into Halloween and the legend of the Sleepy Hollow, which obviously Sleepy Hollow is well known for because it was set there, and that's where Washington Irving was and all that sort of stuff. So it was all about, so the name of the event was D23 Heads Back to the Hollow, to have this event. And what it was it was going to be a screening of the movie, of the compilation movie, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, and then also sort of exploring the town and getting to see the church and the cemetery and stuff where like all the book and everything was based on and written and all that sort of stuff. And we'd also got access, but like before the film started, Becky Klein from the Disney Archives was going to be sharing some secrets and stuff like that from the archives about that related to the topic and stuff like that. So just to give you a little bit of what we knew about it heading into it, and then there was going to be like a reception type thing at the end. So that was kind of the schedule for the day. We had to get there and register between 10 and 11. They were going to start the event at 11. So we drove down, eventually found parking. I will say Sleepy Hollow on the weekends in the month of October, especially with how nice the weather was kind of a madhouse, with everyone just kind of walking around and taking it in. There was like a farmer's market and just
so there's a bunch of other stuff happening.
Right? Exactly. It wasn't just the couple hundred of us D23 people. We log in, or I don't know why I keep saying log in, but when we register, we get there, and they give us like our welcome packet, which we got a collectible pin that's only available for here, and a new D23 magnet and kind of agenda for the day and stuff like that, which I should have paid a little bit more attention to because they changed some of the details versus what was in the emails that they distributed with the agenda, but I'll get to that in a little bit before that. So the first thing was it was held in the Tarrytown Music Hall, which is kind of a historic site where they've had live music goes on there a lot, but they also show movies and stuff like that. So it's a kind of one of those old, film studios and theaters and stuff. And yeah, so it started with Becky Klein giving sharing a lot of archival footage and stuff related to Sleepy Hollow and related to this movie and kind of all that sort of stuff that they just had at the archives and things that basically most people hadn't seen before. So they showed things like when this aired one time on the Disneyland show that Walt would host, they showed like his introduction for that he did. There was an animated history about Washington Irving that I had never seen. She had footage of, it was this D23 or Disney a cappella group. I believe she said the name was Melody 23. Becky Klein was one of the members of the singing group. And it was footage of them singing an unused song from when The Wind in the Willows, Mr. Toad was going to be a full-length movie. there was a song called "The Bells of St. Bartholomew," and they were singing it, performing it, and that.
Oh wow!
So like, I had no idea. Like they had all these like multiple songs that were.
Did you know that was going to happen? It was going to be like music and stuff like that.
No, like it was just we didn't know what. All it said was that she was going to have footage and things like that from the archive and things like
That's
that.
kind of
So
fun.
yeah, so there's a lot of like fun stuff like that, and like about the making of. A lot of it was about how I guess these movies, especially Wind in the Willows, was originally going to be a full length feature, but then after what happened with the war, and they started making those package films where it was like 2 or 3 shorts kind of put together.
Right.
They decided to do that with the Legend of the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. So each one kind of got shortened a little, so things got cut. So it was a lot about like, well, what got cut and the development. So they had like sketches and things like that of Mr. Toad and like the different incarnations of what he looked like over time and things like that. So if you're like into like the makings of the movies and like what happened and knowing all like, a lot of Walt's 9 old men worked on this and stuff like that. So it was really interesting to see
classic,
all that
yep.
side of stuff. So if you're into that sort of stuff, this was like, you were kind of in heaven seeing all this sort of stuff.
So how long was this? Was this like an hour or so?
Yeah, this was probably maybe like 40 minutes, 45 minutes of like kind of showing stuff before that. And then they showed the full movie, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Okay.
And then they released us into the town, and we had some time on our own to check out the different sites, and they give you suggestions. You want to check out like the old mill, and there's the statue they have of the Headless Horseman, and there's the famous sign, things like kind of just things around town that you can do on your own, as you can either take a shuttle or walk up to the old Dutch church, which is in the cemetery in Sleepy Hollow, which is where all these things that were about the Adventures of Ichabod and the Legend of Sleepy Hollow is all about. And when we got there, they had a tour set up for us, and that was kind of interesting. I'd never done the tour of there. Obviously, I'm in the area and know about Sleepy Hollow and stuff like that. But one thing that was kind of weird is a burial ground, so there's tons of headstones everywhere. The oldest one they know that has a date goes back to like 1757 or something. Like it's really like old stuff. But where everybody's just kind of walking through, and it kind of felt weird. Like, is it okay to just like walk on these plots where there's people buried underneath and stuff like that? But it's like almost like people walking around like it's like a museum or a park and stuff like that, but it's a cemetery, so it's kind of weird. But that's where they told us to go. Like we were following directions and stuff. But they pointed out a lot of the different headstones. They talked about the legend of the Headless Horseman and how they gave the background on that there was a Hessian soldier that was hired by the English, and one of them saved somebody's daughter from a fire or something like that, because he's like, look, I'm still going to do, even though I'm hired for do this, I don't want a baby to die or something. So when they found the body of a Hessian soldier that had lost its head, it had been blown off by a cannon, they buried it in like a plot of reverence as honor for the Hessian that saved their daughter and stuff like that. So that's kind of like, so they think that actually happened, and that's kind of where the story of a Headless Horseman,
the origin,
origin came from. And we saw the tombstone for Katrina Van Tassel, which is the name of the woman in the Adventures of Ichabod that he has, the crush on and stuff like that. And they talked a lot about how Washington Irving would take elements from real people like in the area and kind of combine them into characters. So he said he took the name from Katrina Van Tassel, as the Van Tassel family was a very big family in the area. But then her niece, who helped operate a restaurant or whatever, she was the one who had kind of the bubbly and flirtatious personality. So he kind of took her niece's personality with her name, and that's how he came up with the character. And I guess the people of the town always got a kick out of the fact that people from the town would be in his books and stories and stuff like that. So we got that. We went into the church, and they did a little demonstration. They had I guess it's a restoration or a mock-up of an old style organ, and the person played When You Wish Upon a Star on the organ and things like that, and kind of was just telling us a lot about the history and stuff like that. So
let me ask you a quick question before you go on. Yeah. How many people were there for D23? You said the place was crowded. How big was the actual event?
So the event for D23, they didn't really give a count, but it was probably a couple hundred, I would say.
Okay. Decent amount of people.
Yeah, and they split us up for the tour. So each tour probably had 40-ish people type things, so that it wasn't too big, and you kind of had different start times and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So after the tour, this was where some of the communication got a little wonky. The email agenda said go back to the music hall and get the shuttle there to the reception, but apparently they changed it to like you were going to get picked up at a Walgreens parking lot, which it said on the, it was kind of random, but I guess it was a little bit like out of the center of town. So it was easier to have the buses go through and stuff like that. So eventually we figured that out, got to Walgreens and got over to the site, which was a park that's right on the Hudson River. And they had a nice little setup with a live band playing and some food and drinks and stuff like that. And they had a art print for sale that we could get that was all limited to 300 and stuff like that. So it was a nice event. And then that pretty much, they had a hayride and things like that. So it's kind of, a fun little event. And that pretty much wrapped up the main part of the event. So that was what we knew we were going to do going into it. I really liked the part with Becky Cline, the behind the scenes kind of archival footage. It's fun to see the movies. It was fun to see kind of the areas of town, although a lot of that stuff you can do sort of on your own or just book your own tours. It's not like super exclusive to D23, and the reception was fine, but it wasn't anything special. So I kind of left the event thinking that was good, but I don't think it was worth the cost. It was over $200 a person.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, some of the things are obviously unique. You don't always get access to Becky Cline and the pin and stuff like that, but it didn't feel like it was $200+ of content and stuff like that.
Especially at like 40-minute little thing and then just like a go wander around town.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you saw the movie too, so that made it longer, but yeah, obviously they're running the movie at the theater the whole weekend, so you could just go on your own and watch it.
It's not like it's like hidden somewhere, right?
Exactly. So, and even my daughter, she had a good time. She enjoyed it. It was kind of fun for her to do the event. We definitely had some father-daughter bonding, but she definitely said, she's like, I'm glad I did that. I don't think I need to do it again. So,
but she wasn't also paying for it either.
Right. So if it was coming out of her own pocket, I think she definitely would have been more upset. Now, the one bonus thing that we didn't know was going to happen is they made mention of it during the site. And this was another poor communication thing where they said, after the event, if you want to come back, we're having another screening this night, where it was like, even on the webpage for the music hall, it was kind of like secretive what actually it was going to be and stuff like that. Okay. And what it turned out to be was they were going to have an early screening of a documentary about the making of a Goofy movie. And it's called Not Just a Goof. And basically everybody interpreted like, oh, so after the reception, we get to come back and watch that. Apparently though, like you had to buy separate tickets for that, but they didn't really make that clear. So fortunately I did go on and buy tickets. So I was able to get tickets and we got in, but then they reserved some seats for the D23 people. So it was like, they had special seats for you, but you still had to buy tickets separately. It was really poor communication. And
why would they make that like secretive, but then also you have to buy it?
I don't know. It was like, cause other people found out about it before and like knew something was going on. So they bought the tickets. It was kind of a whole weird setup. And to be honest, then, I mean, a bunch of us did buy the tickets anyway, because everyone's like, well, we're here. We might as well just buy. And this on its own was $26, which I think was totally worth it for just this part, which I'll get to. But still, it was kind of, and you could see a lot of people were kind of complaining, like just these other guys were like, same thing. They're like, okay, this is just one other thing of poor communication at this event. So I don't know. It kind of took a little bit of the shine off the event overall, but it ended on a great note. So this documentary, like I said, it's not even finalized. They said, it's pretty much like it looks complete, but they're like, when it's finally released, it might look a little different than what you're seeing. It's not 100% finalized. But like I said, it's a documentary that was put together by a documentary who happens to be the nephew of Kevin Lima, who is the director of a Goofy movie. He also directed Tarzan and Enchanted. So So he was putting this together, and they go to his house and they go to his basement. His basement is just full of like Disney memorabilia and everything like from the making of all these movies and stuff. So he pulls out this whole like tub of like VHS and 8-track like type tapes. And he's like, this is all film stuff I videotaped while we were making the movie. He's like, I haven't even looked at these in 30 years. So you're going to be like the first people to see them. And stuff. So they used all this footage that was like taken in the room like when they were making the movie, and it's just fascinating to see the whole process on how, I mean, I don't want to give it away because hopefully everyone will get to see it. It was a really good movie. It really got into like the challenges they had making the movie, because it was supposed to be done by like kind of the not the A team, sort of. It was supposed to be done on much smaller budget, and like they didn't have the same access to like the studio execs and stuff like that, and just how they had to like make it together. And they weren't even using the main Disney artists to do the animation. They had a studio in France, a studio in Australia, a studio in Asia, like all over that was actually doing it. And he was saying he shared some of these videos of the director like talking, explaining. It's like, okay, so this scene is going to be like this, and you have to have this expression, blah, blah, blah. And then he would like mail that videotape to France, and they could like see it. So they knew like what was supposed to be conveyed in the scene and stuff like that.
What year did the movie come out?
So it was 95.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I thought. It was like, so
this was all like, yeah,
existed.
Right. So this was like 92, 93 that they're working on it. But anyway, it was funny, and they get to it, and like it does, when the movie's finally released, it doesn't do that well. And they kind of like, okay, well, it was what it was. This was Kevin's first chance to get to direct. He's like, I'm going to use it as a learning experience, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
One of the best parts that goes, they go, and this is where Becky Cline comes back in. So what happened was, after the documentary ended, Kevin Lima actually came out from California for this. So he was on stage with Becky Cline, kind of doing a Q&A, talking about the movie and making it and stuff like that. And I guess at a D23 event, I guess 4 years ago, it was for the 25th anniversary of a Goofy movie. She like pushed to have a panel done for the anniversary. And they were like, no, like nobody cares about this movie. Why are we going to do this? Blah, blah. Eventually she got them to agree to do it. It turned out to be the most in-demand panel and the highest rated panel that happened at all of D23.
That's amazing.
It was like the room.
I think I remember that happening.
Yeah. And it was like the room was only set up for like 400 people. They had to turn away 1,000 people that wanted to get into the panel.
Holy cow.
And everyone's like, nobody in the like, that was part of the movie knew it had become this like huge,
like cult classic
hidden thing. And then they go into all this stuff with like all the fans and like everything that they've talked about, and how it's like all these millennials, like younger people have found it, and they're like in all these like, you know, YouTube and TikToks and all this stuff about it, how it's like it's gotten big in Black culture and like all these things that like the director was like, I had no idea about this, and like it just kind of blew them away. And like once Disney found out that it was popular, they put like merchandise into overdrive. And
of course.
And Kevin Lee was like, once it started, I tried to get like a piece of every merchandise that came out. And he's like, I couldn't keep up. And like, my wife wants to get rid of all of it. I think Becky Cline's like, well, if I could come into your basement and get some of that material. And he's like, my wife would love that.
Oh boy. Can I join? Can I pick up one or two things? That'd be nice.
So anyway, so this turned out to be a highlight. By the end of it, my daughter was coming. She's like, you were crying. The guy behind us was crying. The guy in front of us was crying. Like, it's just like about the making of it and how much it's meant to so many people and fathers and sons and parents and kids, and how like, I think when you first watch it, you usually are younger and kind of identify with Max. And as you get older, now you're identifying with Goofy. And it was really fascinating about this and how they had to get it made. And they wanted to have it not just be Goofy doing physical stunts, but like having more emotions and heart.
Sure.
And how like when the movie came out, the critics were like, why is Goofy not just doing physical things and stuff like that? So anyway, I thought it was really good. They're apparently negotiating, because it was made independently, but they're apparently in negotiations with Disney. They're hoping it'll be coming to Disney Plus.
Oh, okay.
They're targeting for April, when it'll be the 30th anniversary of a Goofy movie. Mm-hmm. So if it comes, I highly recommend it. And if it doesn't make it onto Disney Plus, I guess we'll figure out where it's going to be. But so I've been going on for a while, but long story short, that was like something completely unexpected. I know we talk about this a lot with our Disney trips, right? Like sometimes our favorite memories are the things you don't plan for. This was definitely the highlight of the day, and it was something that we didn't plan for. So.
I know that's like one of your favorite movies.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Like I know what you're going to talk about. Like it's in the show notes, and I'm like, you're going through the highlights of the Sleepy Hollow, and it's just like, okay. And, you know, it was really interesting. And then we had to wander around, blah, 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 blah. We went through it. And then all of a sudden got to not just a goof story. And like, this was like the highlight of your day.
Yeah.
And you can clearly see that from the storytelling. It's interesting that they would like bury I don't know. Is that the lead? Is it like, I
mean, it's not the lead. Obviously the whole event was for like, you know, Halloween and Sleepy Hollow and stuff like that. But like, yeah, I think they should have made this part of it. And I think if this was made part of it and marketed better and stuff like that, I think people would have left much with a much more satisfied feeling than I think a lot of people did. So
Well,
long story short, you never know what you're going to get at a D23 event, but yes, just because it's a D23 event doesn't mean it'll be worth what they're charging.
yeah, true. Well, I'm a whatever the free member of D23, and I'm like, I want to sign up, but there's never anything around me to kind of do it, to like take advantage of it.
Yeah.
It's always like in around the parks, I guess. Anyway, that was the first part of the show. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. We appreciate that. Also want to want to welcome a new member of Discord, Vi Queen. She joined last week, so thank you for joining us. She says she's not a big Discord person, but she loved the show, so we appreciate you coming on and telling us. We love that. Hopefully you stick around and join the conversation as well. Also, there's a shout out to my sister who posted a bunch of comments on the video and identified as a super fan. That's really cool of her. If you go back in the archives of the show, she was on multiple episodes. I think the first year when we were doing recording.
It's been a little while though, but
yeah.
But it's just funny. My phone kept dinging like new post, and it was like a new thing, and it was the same person. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you for making all these comments.
Yeah, she's the one that got me into Disney. She bought into Animal Kingdom Lodge DVC. Goodness, it had to be 14, 15 years ago. I want to say. So it's been quite some time, and she cruises a lot now. That's her new passion. So we appreciate that. Okay, so that was a really quick show open with a really great story. Now on to the news. I guess we haven't done like on to the news, but we have some updates about like my trip. Not like updates, but like kind of conversations around like what are we going to do when we're there. But before we get into that, there's a whole like what time was it? There was a bunch of news came out. It's like 3:45 today, right? This is we're recording this on Monday, so about 3:45 Eastern. We just got spammed with news alerts.
Like, it was funny because my son had a soccer tournament, and so I was at that, so I wasn't really checking news or anything because I'm trying to pay attention and playing and stuff. And I get out, and all of a sudden I check, and it was just like, you have like 101 new posts. I'm like, wait, what? Like,
what
it's like, I was like, oh, this happened and this happened, and obviously everybody's reporting on all the same things, so you're getting the same story multiple times. But it was just funny that how much was there.
So when you give us a rundown, what was that?
So the big three things that I saw was ones that we knew this was coming, but Disney officially announced that Big Thunder Mountain Railroad will be closing at the Magic Kingdom. We thought initially it was going to be like as early as September, but they've now given the date that it'll be January 6th. And that it will reopen, all they said, in 2026. So it's going to be at least a year-long refurbishment. And they did mention that when it reopens, it will have a little bit of new magic. So people are thinking they're adding either the explosion scene at the end or some other effects or something like that. We also knew they were going to be doing a retracking of it and probably be doing some of the prep for either Cars Land or Beyond Big Thunder or whatever it's going to be that will probably happen during that time with it when it being closed. So number of people in our Discord have trips coming up already planned for next year, and they're a little bit bummed about this closure, but I guess at least now and you can kind of adjust.
Well, I mean, that's what things. One, we predicted that this announcement would have happened at D23 a couple of months ago, but I guess they waited for now. I just think that I think it's a brand new track. I think they're going to use this time to also probably get in some heavy machinery kind of in there for additional expansions. So, and then the question then becomes, how long is this going to be down? Because it's like 2026, but it could be anywhere in 2026.
Right.
It's going to be a brand new track, which is going to be awesome, and it's basically out in the open. Like you'll be able to see quite a bit of what's happening there, and then once that goes down, it's not really going to impact the park because it's all tucked kind of in that corner. Right? So it's not going to be Epcot 2.0, but I'm going to be curious to see how far after. Maybe that's a good before and after question with our friend Matt. Like, how many months after January 6th do we start seeing some closures for Tom Sawyer's Island?
Yeah.
So what is that? What, is it 3 months? Is it 5 months? Whatever it might be. But I'm sad to see it close, but I'm really excited to see kind of like updating it, not having my child like free flow like across the bench and some of those ride vehicles. So we'll see.
Yeah. And then the next thing they announced was that the last day for Triceratops Spin, Fossil Fun Games, and Chester and Hesser's Dinosaur Treasure at Animal Kingdom is January 12th. So construction walls will go up on January 13th for that area. So that's pretty much the Dino-Rama area, the roadside attraction area. It says they haven't given any dates, but for now, Restaurantosaurus, the Boneyard, Dinosaur the Ride, Dinobite Snacks, and Trilobites will stay open. So I'm glad to see the Boneyard still there too, because I'm still kind of hoping that'll maybe stick around. But yeah, so those things will still be open for a while. They didn't give any dates on that. There was a report about an animatronic being removed from Dinosaur, which it'll be interesting to see if that's just one of those things where we know this is closing and this is not working, so just take it out, or is this Dinosaur is going to be around for a year plus and we're actually going to fix something in it. So we'll see if it comes back or not. But it was interesting that it was moved.
I don't think they're going to fix anything. I think either they're taking it out permanently or maybe it's like a quick fix that they can do and put it back type of thing.
Yeah, not that they're replacing it or anything like that, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they go. So that does mean for your trip, this will still be open if you want to say your tearful goodbyes to Triceratops Spin. But yeah, for other people with trips next year, you're going to see a lot of construction walls.
I wonder why it's Kingdom. January 13th. Like these are just like one is January 6th, the other one is the 13th. I mean, it's kind of silly. But what's the next one here?
And the next one they talked about just we knew that they had announced that the Little Mermaid show over in Animation Courtyard in Hollywood Studios was going to be reopening as a new version called The Little Mermaid: A Musical Adventure, because everything has to have adventure in the name. Yeah. It was supposed to open this fall. It has been announced that it is delayed until summer of 2025.
So there is a rumor about a trustworthy person on WDW Magic. They're not really an insider, but they know people who know people type of person. It's pretty reputable, in my opinion. And basically, the delay is mostly for exit and queue work to wrap it around the building in a different direction, because that means Animation Courtyard is going to be all the demo. So you got to be able to get to it from a different location.
Okay.
Again, it's a rumor. I read that probably like an hour, about 2 hours ago, which makes sense, right? So if the new Monsters Inc. door coaster and all the lands around it are going to go there, you can't have a queue like right in front of it, right?
Yeah.
So they're probably going to do like a why can I never remember the other Toy Story ride that got changed? Toy Story Mania.
Like Toy Story Mania. Hell yeah.
Kind of do something like that. So we'll see. And then the other part of that rumor was, and I think this is a rumor of a rumor, is a speculative rumor, I guess. I don't know if it's actually any kind of heft to it, but the merch store that's attached to that, or like that's on the same attached to that building, I don't think it's attached to the exit of that attraction. I can't remember. It's been so long. But that's going to be where the playground goes that we saw in all those pictures for.
Oh, okay.
So that's what people are speculating at the moment. A couple other things that are kind of popping up, like we mentioned, was it a week ago, about the cranes going in reflections? BioReconstruct had a couple flyover video shots of that area. So if you're curious to see what state it's in, you can go check that out. You also had over the weekend some shot back of the house shots at Animal Kingdom. Showing like all the prep areas for the construction that's going to go in with Tropical Americas. So things are slowly going in that direction. And all of a sudden, the new Poly Tower is going to be open. Reflections 2.0 or whatever it's going to be called is going to start construction. You're going to have Animal Kingdom. You're going to have Hollywood Studios. You're going to have Magic Kingdom, all going ham for whatever new projects that are going on. So it's going to be exciting. There's going to be plenty of stuff to talk about in the next year or two.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that.
BioReconstruct is going to be busy.
Well, he's going to be busy with not only all this stuff, but with Epic.
Oh yeah, with Epic Universe Open, yeah, he kind of alternates. Yeah, that's true.
he needs to get Costco helicopter fuel or whatever he flies save some cash. Okay, so I was going to talk about today was my trip is coming up pretty soon. It is going to be 2 weeks from this Friday, I think. Right, it's 19 days or so, 17 days. So I'm trying to think, like, okay, this is not a typical trip. It's just my wife and I. And I started listing all these. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. This was new, whatever. And I started making a long list. It's like a pretty decent list of things to do on the trip with specific intent. My question was, is this enough to either perk your interest in a trip, or is it worthy to plan a trip just for this? And some of these closures might actually prompt a yes to that if there's enough, because not every one or two of these things is like worth going down to see. But like when you start putting a collection together, it's like, oh, there's a lot that you can look forward to do. So, assuming that you're a Disney super fan like us,
Yeah.
If you are, if you're listening to this, you probably are, right? So I'm just going to go down the list, right? So I kind of surprised myself with a lot of stuff to actually do to make the trip worthwhile. Any trip's worthwhile, but I guess you got.
And just to clarify, the last time you were down was last December. Is that
last December? It's not even a year, right? So it's 10 months ago at this point, right? So I'm going November 1st through the 5th, and so since then we've got the new Country Bear show, right? We've got Tiana's. Those are the two obvious ones that are. Tiana's might be something worthwhile for a super fan to go down for like a down and back trip type of thing. So I think that weighs heavily. You of course got the new Adventureland cement. Like, who wouldn't go down just
for that? Yeah,
just those cement updates. Another thing that was announced today in the news is that the Jungle Cruise is opening up, I think, in what? Today's the 14th, the 16th?
I think so, yeah. A little earlier than expected, yeah.
It's a refurb, right? So just they're not adding anything. They're just basically updating it. But they announced that the Jungle Cruise is opening November 2nd, which is the first day, my park day down there. So I get I can't even see the Jungle Cruise. I get the Jungle Cruise, which I guess is kind of cool, even though I haven't seen the normal Jungle Cruise in like 2 years now, since 2021, I want to say. But that lends me to another question, Phil, is when did the decorations start going up? Like, I know these start going up like November 1st, like the day after Halloween.
Yeah.
But it takes time, right? It's a process of like a couple weeks for everything to get up and running. How much Magic Kingdom decorations are going to be up by that Saturday? So Halloween's on Thursday. Saturday is the day Jungle Cruise opens up. I suspect almost everything is going to be Christmassy when I get there.
Yeah, I mean, I would since you specified Magic Kingdom, I think Magic Kingdom is going to be pretty well done up. I mean, maybe there's a little things lingering or something, but for the most part, Magic Kingdom will be all Christmas. Other areas like the resorts and stuff and Epcot will be a little later, but Magic Kingdom should be pretty much all done.
So that the Jungle Cruise starts on a Saturday. The first Christmas party is on the following Friday, I want to say. That's the first party day. So there's basically 5-day window. I think I've mentioned this before, between the the Halloween party and the Christmas party. Mm-hmm. So that's going on. I was kind of expecting kind of like a normal Disney World. Now I'm starting to get the idea of like, oh wait, I'm going to be inundated with like Christmas stuff already.
Yeah.
And I was at Home Depot yesterday with my two kids, and I had to go pick some stuff up, but they like going in and seeing all the Halloween decorations, like the big spooky things
the big blow up
things. Yeah. And they already had all the Christmas stuff. Like they had all like the Christmas trees and the blow ups and all this other type of stuff. So I was like, oh gosh, here we go. It's going to start. I'm going to hear Christmas music. I guarantee I'm going to start.
I mean, we don't really report on Disneyland, but it came out today at Disneyland Park. They already have the snow caps put onto the Snow White's castle.
Oh man, it started.
Which is kind of weird. Which I guess they got to get it started earlier when they have to get that done or something like that. But it just seems weird that they still have like the big giant pumpkin at one end of Main Street, and then you got the Christmas snow at the other end. But I guess it is what it is.
All right, so Jungle Cruise opens up. Then I have a list of goodbyes, like Tom Sawyer Island. I say goodbye to that. I've never been on Tom Sawyer Island, so I'm going to say hello and goodbye in the same trip.
I'd be interested in your take in it, and just kind of what you think about that, and kind of what your kids would have thought of it and stuff like that once you get on it.
I'm kind of sad that I'm kind of holding out hope that they might be able to see it next summer, but I'm not really holding my breath on that one.
Yeah.
Goodbye to the riverboat. I've been on the riverboat before. Do that one more time. Goodbye to Dino Land USA. My wife and I went for a walk today. Says, well, we could go over to Animal Kingdom and say goodbye to Dino Land. And she's like, do we really need to do that? Is there any reason? I'm like, well, it'd be cool in like 15 years. We have last final pictures. Be like, hey, remember this Tropical America is now?
Yeah, I wonder if now that it's announced, I wonder if there'll be any special merch about.
Oh boy, I'll buy
Triceratops spin twinkling away.
Yeah, right. So I'm not gonna ride Triceratops spin. I'll take a picture of it. That'd be kind of funny with my wife and I just sitting on it, because I don't think I've ever been on with another adult. That's kind of uncomfortable. Another goodbye is Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which we found out.
Or at least see you later, I guess.
Yeah, but well, to the uncomfortable seats, I guess we'll say goodbye to those. In the creaky, some of the creakiness, but yeah, we get the last shot on that because do we go back in 2026? I don't know. 2026 might be a year where we just kind of skip again, waiting for a bigger trip in 2027 when Tropical Americas opens up. So I don't know. I don't know how my future self is going to do that. The new Communicore Hall opened up in the meet and greet and the permanent festival booths. I mean, not that you have to spend too much time, but check it out, walk through it, that type of thing. I haven't been to the new PhilharMagic with the Coco update, so that's kind of like on the list there. And then we get to experience the Epcot extra evening hours for deluxe guests because we're staying at Animal Kingdom Lodge. So that's a whole bunch of things that are relatively new to us that are put in place. Maybe Epcot. I have another first times down list. Maybe so the Epcot extra evening hours. So, and then first times that we're going to be there is my wife's never been on Tron. She had a rib injury last time. She didn't want to ride it. We're going to try finally get into Oga's finally. Storybook dining, we managed to do it, and staying in Animal Kingdom Lodge, which is also a first. And then another big thing, which randomly today, I've been checking randomly. My wife and I wanted to do some of the behind the scenes tours that all the different parks offer. And we wanted to do a lot of the Animal Kingdom stuff. You inspired by your nighttime safari thing. Excuse me. And I just kind of refreshed the browser. I have a browser with like 4 tabs open or 5 tabs open. With all of them, I just hit refresh every day. And I haven't done it in a couple of days. And all of a sudden, Caring for Giants opened up at a 10 a.m. listing, and I immediately got it. And I had no idea how much money it was going to cost. It's $30 with the Visa discount. It's 1 hour. You get just up and close to some elephants and check them out. I'm really pumped for that.
Yeah.
And I was really curious if because these are sold out, probably immediately become, offered at was it the 30-day mark or the 60-day mark?
It's 60 and the same thing like 60 plus however long. Yeah.
And they've been sold out. You got to pay for them up front. So it's kind of hard for some people to like drop them or the add-on or whatever way it might be. But you can actually get them. So I was unsure if like this is like an ADR where you can kind of refresh and find something as you get closer. But it does work. They do pop up. So if you in the future, bummed out that you miss some, constantly check, you maybe find a slot. I don't know. So I don't know if I got super lucky or that's kind of a normal thing. So that being said, Phil, let me run through these through one more time. Country Bears, Tiana's, The Adventureland Cement, Jingle Cruise, goodbye to Tom Sawyer's Island, Riverboat, Dinoland USA, Big Thunder Mountain, or maybe see you real soon. Communicore Hall, PhilharMagic, and then first times for extra evening hours at Epcot, Tron, Oga's, Storybook Dining, Caring for Giants, and obviously the Food and Wine Festival is going on right now. Would that be enough for you to consider a weekend trip? Maybe not like a full blown like family trip, but like a weekend trip.
I think so. Like, because I've done some of those. Like, it's not necessarily. I don't know if it's enough to get me to plan like an extra trip, but like if I was like thinking of booking a trip anyway and like kind of listed out everything that you just listed out, that would probably push me to book it.
Because again, this is I got a travel agent discount, so I got a pretty good rate at Animal Kingdom Lodge, and it's just my wife. So we're doing all sorts. We're doing like also doing the dessert party for Happily Ever After. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So when there's less people, it's easier to spend on some of these extra things, right?
Yep.
So we have our trip for next summer booked, so we didn't have a big one this year, and I think this. I was just going to go down just because I wanted to go down, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that type of thing. But like now makes my investment in the trip feel a lot better because like I'm going to actually be able to accomplish a whole bunch of these things, and not have to be like have like next summer and everything's shut down. It's like I really wish I got a chance to come see it for like this for the last time, that type of thing. So
that's a good point too. Like just even some of these things like you said, the PhilharMagic and the Communicore, like some of the little things, or even Country Bears and Tiana's, like it'll kind of be nice for you to, I don't want to say get them out of the way, but like that you'll have done that. And then for the next summer, you can kind of focus more on that your kids get to experience them and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not worried about like taking pictures with the kids. I can just kind of enjoy it and what have you. So, so let me know on Discord or social media somewhere if that's enough for you to plan a full trip, maybe influence you on speeding up a new trip. I don't know if those are the type of things you go down to the Disney World to do, but I found it kind of interesting. We're kind of running some things. All right, Phil, so we're at the 40-minute mark. Do we want to go right to our engagement question from last week?
I guess so, yeah. I think that's what
I think we're at the end of I was planning a game. but with your story at the top, I don't think we had enough time, and I think we're just perfect amount of time for the engagement. And just a reminder for our social media accounts out there: Twitter, Insta, and Twitter, Facebook, and our YouTube channel, all at the DVC Pod. Phil does a good job running all of those things. So if you,
I did try to post quite a bit from the event and stuff like that. So hopefully people that were following along got to see some of those images.
Yeah. So anytime you're angry at me, do not yell at the DVC Pod because that's Phil. You can always try to find me on Twitter somewhere and go there. Anyway, last week we asked the community, what is the best time to arrive at the parks? And a couple people didn't understand the assignment because everybody assumed it was for Magic Kingdom. But Mama of Six, one of the best posters in the world, she got the assignment and she answered individually. I was just curious, Phil, because a lot of people like show up late, show up early, or show up late but stay late. Like everybody's got a different way of doing the parks. And I'm always interested in how people do the parks. And some people say, I used to do this, but now I do this, that type of thing. So I again, you know me, I love the evolution of the psychology of people do parks. So Phil, do you want to run through these in order, or how would you like to do that?
Yeah. Why don't I do a couple, and then if I'm starting to run out of breath, you can take over.
Okay. This actually was a lot of engagement, which I was kind of surprised with. Yeah. So it was nice.
Yeah. So first of all, we had from Lumpy, who said the perfect time to arrive is about 45 minutes before rope drop. So this is someone who wants to get there early, wants to be at the front of rope drop and take advantage of that time. We did give the caveat that you can assume everyone would be ready for whatever time you want to get there. Because I know there's a lot of people who be like, well, I want to be there 45 minutes before rope drop, but I know that's not realistic with my family.
Right.
But he said, and he mentioned that it's a tougher sell as his family's gotten older, but that's the perfect time for them. He says, I also absolutely love the golden hour or so before crowds arrive and would gladly leave midday or even leave the park early if that means we were there at the park to rope drop. And then it says you can have the sweaty couple of hours after lunch until things start to cool down and get less crowded around dinner time.
Yeah, I tend to love a lot of the parks in the morning when like the sun is coming up and it's a fresh new day and you're not dealing with like your fourth attraction that you're trying to hike over to and hustle and bustle, that type of thing. So I
think anytime when you can kind of, like you said, take it easy a little bit or experience lower crowds is always nice.
Always a good thing.
Mama Six says, again, that we can have different times for different parks. She said for Magic Kingdom would be 4 p.m. because they love throughout sunset and into the evening hours as the temperatures cool down and everything lights up. Animal Kingdom, 45 minutes before rope drop. It's an awesome morning park. Epcot is another 4 p.m. vote. Crowds at the front die down since everybody's in the back having dinner and drinks and stuff like that. And then you can still have time to have dinner and watch Luminous. Hollywood Studios is back to 45 minutes before rope drop to beat the crowds and banging out a few of the big rides while the waits are low. So it's kind of I don't know if it's the parks that are more based around the rides you're trying to get to or whatever, that you want to be there early versus maybe the parks you've been to more often, the older parks, Epcot and Magic Kingdom, that it's a little bit more like, let's just enjoy them in the evening or whatever. But I think that's a kind of an interesting split, that two of them, it's like get there super early, two of them get there late.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Magic Kingdom. It's a 4 p.m. or later because I love the parks at night, right?
Yeah.
So if you can, I mean, the opposite of what Lumpy said is being the golden hour as the sun's rising. I love that. We're actually thinking about our first day there is the first park day, going in for breakfast and leaving at like 10:30 and go do whatever, and then come back for the dessert party later in the evening. But you just like ignore the middle part, that large part of the day doing that. At 4 p.m. you haven't been induced by the madness of crowds and sweat and like pushing and fighting, the multi-pass and lightning lanes and booking and figuring out food. You're just kind of waltzing in, and the park could be open for another 6 to 8 hours at this point at 4 o'clock, right? Depending on
for Magic Kingdom at least.
Yep. So I mean, you can still get a ton of stuff done, especially if you don't sit around for fireworks. You kind of do that while everybody's gathered in the hub. So that's a really good time. Another one I kind of agree with is Epcot. If you're at Epcot, just do like the big, what is it now? It's the big 3 now since Test Track is closed.
Yeah.
And assume you get a boarding group. Is you have to rope drop Remy's to get in there most likely if you want it. If you don't want to wait at least an hour throughout the day, because it's typically anywhere between 40 and 60 minute wait times for most of the day. But once you get through, you kind of rush around World Showcase and up to Test Track or Guardians, depending on what you're doing. The park is in really bit of a lull until like lunchtime because a lot of the countries aren't open. A lot of the festival booths don't open until like 11-ish or so. So getting in there late and kind of meandering around and grabbing some bites and kind of seeing what you want to do and just kind of walk around and enjoy the ambiance and maybe go on a ride or two. I really like that methodology. I'm a big fan of that. I think that's what we're actually probably going to be doing in a couple weeks.
Yep.
So what's next?
Next one is Wheezy. Said at bus or whatever mode of transportation you're taking an hour before early entry opening, so that you should hopefully get there 40 to 50 minutes before security, and starting at Magic Kingdom, get a Starbucks on Main Street.
That's a young man's answer right there.
Yeah. Thinking that it's only going to take that long. Yep. So as far as tapping into the park, it says Animal Kingdom 30 minutes prior to opening, Hollywood Studios 30 minutes prior to opening, Magic Kingdom 45 minutes prior to opening so they can get Starbucks. And then it says Epcot to be there at 12:58 p.m. so that you can get the 1 p.m. virtual queue drop. Don't really care for Epcot in the morning with World Showcase mostly closed, like you talked about. So that is a good point, though, that with the virtual queues, if you are interested in getting them, you either have to, I guess, try at 7 a.m. and maybe get an early one, or get in there into the park before 1 p.m.
I have to really pay attention to what I want, because I don't know what we haven't figured out what parks we're going to be at the first part of the day, because we're going to buy the multi-pass for the two of us for each day that we're there. It's not expensive for two people for 3 days, but that means we have to pick what parks we're going to be in. And at least on Monday, we know we're going to be at Animal Kingdom because we've got the Caring for Giants type of thing. So we have to figure that out, and I don't know what time we're going to be there for everything. And then I have to figure out virtual queues for Tiana's, like in Lightlings, for all that stuff. So I've got some decisions I have to make. So I'm not looking forward to them. I'm very, very at a loss at, like, I'm fighting against planning.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to kind of balance that where you're almost forced to plan, but you don't want to plan. Like you're trying not to have to plan, but
yeah. So my wife's going to keep me honest.
There you go. T.L. Madden said, is there an answer besides rope drop? I like to arrive 30 minutes before the actual rope drops, but without my family, I'd arrive as early as 45 to 60 minutes, especially in the park, let you in before the official opening.
Almost every park allows you to in early, except for maybe Hollywood Studios. I know Epcot lets you get like almost 2 Remy's before official rope drop. Magic Kingdom, obviously, you can go all the way up through the hub.
Yep.
And I know Animal Kingdom allows you to get in a little bit earlier too sometimes.
Yep. It says earliest he's ever arrived was for the 50th, which was pre-dawn. Yeah, I remember that. I was there too.
I was going to say.
I was there like 5:30 in the morning or whatever it was. And yeah, you literally were there when the sun was coming up, which was kind of crazy.
That was kind of fun.
And they said they have their Disneyland trip this week. So yeah, so shout out to TL Madden. I hope you travel safe. It's their first time going out to Disneyland. He says we'll see how early he can get the family into Disneyland this week. And they just have to walk, which should help, and the time change should help them because they'll think it's earlier.
True,
than it is, right? So I guess we'll see. Cast of Stone,
old friend, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back to Cast of Stone.
Yeah,
Magic Kingdom. He says sleep in and show up late on a day with a party where you could get to enjoy a completely dead park until 4 p.m. And then I guess go somewhere else.
I don't know about that. I was at Magic Kingdom last year. I mean, granted, it was the week before Christmas. It was not a dead park whatsoever. Like most things had like a 40+ minute wait.
Yeah, I think it depends on which day and that sort of thing. But
I think that might be an old myth at this point.
Yeah. Hollywood Studios, it says anymore, it seems like rope dropping isn't worth it. So he said he'd hop there after his Magic Kingdom day at 4 p.m. And enjoy the evening there. Animal Kingdom rope drop. Thankfully, it's not as insane for the safaris anymore. That's where he would head. And Epcot, he said he hasn't been there since it's fully reopened, so he will hold an opinion on that.
Okay.
Herdomaniac. To me, it depends on if you're staying on-site or off. On-site, stay at the resort all day for pool and hot tub time and go to the parks right after an early dinner, unless you have some special dinner lined up at the park or something like that. However, if you're off-site, go early and then take the midday break and go back to the parks after.
Herdomaniac is a huge resort-only stay type person. He only just recently started getting an annual pass and going back into the park. So I really appreciate his opinion because it's just unique and different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're on site and you're really enjoying the resort, like the parks tend to be a little cherry on top, and especially if you're local, like you don't have that sense of like I'm here, I need to do things too, so you can generally take things easy.
Yeah. The only thing I kind of question, but I mean, I guess maybe it depends how you're doing it. What you're saying, but it's saying taking the midday break when you're staying off site, like that could just take a lot of time to get back and back. Yeah,
you got to park and everything.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an Uber ride, so who knows?
Yep. Joe C commented of note, he has always stayed on property. I'm a fan of rope dropping during the early access hours, going hard until about 2 or 3 o'clock, going back midday break, and then returning to the parks to kick off to the finish. Says odd exception is Magic Kingdom, where he prefers a late start, like 10 or so, and then just staying the whole day.
I like how it's a quote unquote late start, but it's
still 10 a.m.
I mean, I think that's some people's early start is at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
This is you know what? Maybe the more interesting question for next week is when's the best time to take a midday break? Because people keep talking about midday break. Some people say 2, some people say 11, some people say 4. I'm curious what the consensus is on that, but I don't know if that's interesting enough for a full engagement question. Maybe I should have asked that for this one. Who knows?
A Music Life for me said his time has changed over time because he used to be a traveler who was away, and now he's a local. So when he had to travel to Disney, he said he would rope drop and would just be there until the parks closed. Just go a whole day while you were there. But now as a local, his favorite time is to get into the park around 5 p.m. He said the energy of walking around at sunset into the evening is always amazing. I do think evening at any Disney theme park is the best. Plus, especially in Florida, you don't have the sun boiling on you.
Yep. We took a walk around, him and I took a walk around the lagoon at Epcot, like after Luminous when everything was kind of closing up. And it's just so relaxing in the evening there when in any park, you're just kind of walking around. I really do enjoy that. I wish the parks were open later.
Absolutely. And lastly, Ryan W. said, my favorite time is nighttime because the lights add an extra dimension to the parks, but haven't experienced it in a few years because of having the little kids. Hopefully this being a year older, they can make it into the night. And my favorite time to be at a Disney resort, though, is early morning. I love experiencing the lobby and the grounds at that time. Animal Kingdom Lodge is amazing this time of day. You get the full experience of the grounds and lobby when it's so quiet. Plus, you're excited for the day ahead that gives you that extra feel. So a little bonus engagement there.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I can mentally be okay with going back to Animal Kingdom Lodge and just kind of relaxing at the pool, knowing I have hoppers and things to do.
Yeah.
And I'm panicking. Maybe this will be a topic for the week before I go down, but I'm like, not panicking, but I'm like, going through scenarios in my head where, try not to plan. So again, my wife and I took a walk today and says, what if we do this? Then we do this, then we do this. That sounds like a fun day. And then I'm realizing, well, I only have 3 days there. And how can I go see everything and do everything? I'm like, stop. I don't have to do everything. There's a list of things that we want to do. And that should be enough. We could do everything in one day if we really wanted to, but we've got 3 days to do it. So,
as long as you hit the stuff that won't be open next summer, at least you could always push those things off, right? If you don't get to ride the Haunted Mansion or something, something like that, then I'm sure you'll do it next summer or whatever. So
my wife's like, whatever is, I don't want to do a ton of walking around and all this other stuff. I wanted to be relaxing. And I'm like, a nice stroll through property and stuff is always relaxing. But I want to make sure we take it easy. So we never asked ourselves what the answer to this question is. Do you have an answer specifically for all 4 parks?
So mine's tough because I really tried to come up with an answer, but it really depends on it varies by trip. It varies by what you're trying to accomplish and stuff like that. So I don't really have any one time. I do like, if I can, at least to Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, getting there sometime during the early entry period if we're staying on site, just because it makes it easier to get in and you can kind of get to the area where you want and you have a little bit of less crowds. I know it's just not realistic to be there. And I don't even think I'd want to get up that early to be there, an hour before the rope drop, but getting a little bit of that early time, I think is good. But yeah, I'm either arriving late or I'm taking a midday break because I want to spend the evenings in the park. That's my favorite time in the parks.
Would your answer be different if it was just like you by yourself, a solo trip, or like an adult only trip versus a family trip?
I don't think so.
Assuming your family wants to go with you, right? Let's ignore that part. But would part of your planning, would you want to go earlier when you were with family versus like a solo type of trip, or knowing that you're there by yourself? Why am I just hanging out in my room all by myself? Let's go
Yeah, I
out
think,
and do
I mean, that's a good point. I think a solo trip, I'd probably have more like things scheduled or things to do. Like you said, I'm not going to I'll probably do a little pool time, but I'm not going to be there for like 2 hours, like hanging out. I'm not going to hang out the room necessarily by myself. So yeah, I'd probably spend more time in the parks or resort hopping or something like that. I know what the only adults only trip we did, we kind of followed that same plan though. Like we got up early for things and took midday breaks and stuff like that. So it was pretty similar as to when we had the kids.
Yep.
It was just easier to get out the door.
It is when you're just running with one other person. All right, I think that's going to wrap up our show, Phil. Luckily, we did not play the game that I wanted to, the top 5. We'll save that for next week potentially.
Yep.
Have we ever done this one? Because the game was top 5 things you've never done at Walt Disney World. Now I'm thinking about it. I think we might have done this before.
I'm trying to think, because I feel like we've talked about like regrets or like things you haven't done or something. I don't know if we've never done it like a top 5 thing like this. So it might be worded a little differently.
Little bit of a tease for next week. Do you want to make that our DBC engagement for next week, or the one that we have written down here before I say anything?
Why don't we make that? Why don't we do that? And then
Perfect.
we can give our answers at the same time.
Okay, so this week's DBC engagement, for those who are still paying attention and listening to the show, thank you. What are the top 5 things you've never done at Walt Disney World? This is a completely subjective list, obviously, but make it like this. If you were going down and you had to pick 5 things that you've never done before at Walt Disney World, what would you? It could be like visiting Wilderness Lodge or somewhere, or an attraction, or a specific snack, or a dining experience. Anything that you like on property that you've never done before that you would want to do. What are 5 of those things that you would form a vacation around to kind of do? I've listed my 5 things, and now I'm thinking about it. It's kind of lame, so I don't know. Maybe it's fun. It's expensive.
Yeah, I can attest to that reading it.
Very, very expensive. But again, you have a limited budget, which is something that would never happen. But again, that's why it's called a game and not reality. Phil, anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I think you covered it. Just hope everyone that's listening down in Florida is doing okay after the hurricane. It seems like the parks overall survived pretty well. So, yep. And wish TL Madden luck on his trip out to Disneyland, and anyone else who has a trip coming up.
Safe travels. And thank you for watching and listening, everybody. And we'll catch you next week.
Take care, everyone.